Isayama, the creator of Shingeki no Kyojin, mentioned during an interview that when he was a teenager, he was a huge fan of a video game called Muv Luv Alternative. He also stated that when he was figuring out the story of Attack on Titan, he wanted his manga to be similar to Muv Luv's in terms of plot, to make a story with an endless depth. In Muv Luv we see how humanity is at the brink of extinction after being invaded by colossal man-eating aliens that doesn't seem to have a reason at all to murder people across the world. This concept was taken by Isayama and added to his own story, but in his own way also. So on this video, after this short introduction, I will make a breakdown of the story of both Muv Luv and Attack on Titan, describing all the similarities between them. This is not a video to say that Isayama copied Muv Luv, he just took inspiration from it as many others do nowadays. So with all this said, let's begin with this breakdown. In Muv Luv, Takeru, the main character, wakes up crying after having a long dream in the beginning of the video game. Meanwhile, Eren does the same in Attack on Titan, when he wakes up under a tree crying also after having a very long dream too. Takeru in his case was seeing visions of his life in other dimension, where he saw how the earth was totally dominated by the Vedas. Meanwhile, Eren was also seeing visions about his life, but in the future, where he chose to escape from everything and live a selfish and happy life with Mikasa. By the way, the Vedas are those giant aliens that I mentioned in the introduction. So Takeru joins the military, and the first chapters are all this development of this main character to become a soldier. He joins the squad 207 before becoming officially a military. Eren also has to join the military, in this case the Survey Corps, and during the first episodes of the manga, we also get to know how he has to train to become officially a member of the 104 training corps. The squad 207 becomes very important for the end of the video game. They are part of the final massive world operation to try to save the world from the Vedas, and some of their members have to sacrifice to fulfill this operation. The 104 training corps also become important for the end of Attack on Titan. They are part of this global offensive to stop Eren from destroying the world with the rumbling, and also there's plenty of sacrifices involved in order to fulfill this mission to save the world from the power of the founder Titan. In Muv Luv, Takeru is able to travel between dimensions with a device created by Yuko, that is the woman in charge of the actual plan to try to communicate with Vedas. In Shingeki, Eren is able to see different futures and events with the power of the founder Titan, so he is somehow also traveling between different events that might happen depending on his decision making. The main base of mankind where Takeru trains is located close to one of the hives where the Vedas arrived to the earth, and is located close to where Takeru used to live. In the case of Attack on Titan, the tree where Ymir Fritz found the source of all organic matter is also located nearby the city where Eren lives. And talking about trees, in Muv Luv, the tree on the hill behind Hakuroi never changes throughout the games, and is the place where normally characters express their feelings in the most emotional scenes of the video game. This tree strangely seems to survive each event that happens in the story, and it's really funny because after seeing the end of Attack on Titan, we can see that there's also a similar tree that was able to survive the destruction of Paradise, the place where Ymir found the power of the founder, the place where the Emma trio used to play at, the place where Eren was buried, and the place where the story ends, when a kid with his dog finds the mysterious tree once again. So we can see the importance of these trees for the story of both Muv Luv and Attack on Titan. In Muv Luv there's not plenty of information about the Vedas, but it's mentioned that they don't have sexual organs, they're hostile toward humans, and they have different kinds and sizes. In Shingeki, the Titans also during the early episodes are described as giant beings with unpredictable behaviors, no sexual organs, and hostile toward humans. Throughout Attack on Titan, we get to see that mankind has tried to obtain information about them, but they have lost plenty of lives while trying to achieve this. In the case of Muv Luv, there's more information available about the Vedas, and mankind did many plans in order to try to understand them. These plans to try to understand the Vedas are called alternatives, and they are numbered from 1 to 4. To make this video not so extensive, I will describe them shortly. So, Alternative 1 was the plan to analyze the way of thinking of Vedas and try to identify and understand their language, but it completely failed. Alternative 2 was designed to capture and detect Vedas, but they couldn't gather info from the bodies of these aliens. Alternative 3 was made in 1973 to try to contact Vedas by using the power of the ESP, special humans that attempt to make a link between the brain of a Veda and the one of a human to communicate, but this plan also failed. Alternative 4 is the last resort of mankind to survive, where 100k people across the whole world will be selected and flee from the earth as a final survival attempt from mankind to escape from their Armageddon. So these special persons that I mentioned before have an extremely powerful mental power, and they are called the ESP, extrasensorial perception humans, that are created inside laboratories. And if it doesn't really remind you of something of Attack on Titan, let me refresh your mind. The Ackerman clan, the most powerful fighters of the world of Shingeki, a subproduct of Titan science, genetically modified humans with an incredible speed and strength. Both ESP and Ackerman are important to both stories and both shine in their own way. The ESP are extremely overpowered at mental skills, meanwhile the Ackerman are extremely overpowered but at physical skills. I'm pretty sure that Isayama wanted to make a parallel and created the Ackerman using the ESP as a reference. In the middle of the story of Muv Luv, there's an incident that generates a civil war between the Shogun and some insurgent forces of Japan, where the main attention of the story moves away from the threat of the Vedas for a while and focuses in this internal conflict. In Attack on Titan, there's also a civil war arc called the Uprising arc, where the main cast has to deal with all the internal problems of the forces that bring security to Paradise. This civil conflict ends up shadowing the problem of the Titans for a while, and we mainly focus on this fight between the Servicorps against the military police. During this civil war in Muv Luv, there's a scene where there's a plot twist where we see that one of the main characters, called Maya, has a twin sister, and this twin sister is the Shogun of Japan, so she has to dress as her and act as a decoy to become a fake Shogun during one mission. In Attack on Titan, we also get to see a scene where we see how Armin is used as a decoy because he resembles Historia. This is a more troll decoy, but also very effective. After the civil war, Takeru becomes a military officially, and during his first mission, he's in contact with Vedas. He goes on berserk mode after witnessing all the deaths that they generated and starts a suicidal charge with literally no equipment to fight in his 3D maneuvering gear mecha. In the case of Eren, he also does a suicidal attack in his third mission as a soldier. Let's remember that he first tries to fight on his own the Colossal Titan, and later, when he's in his mission with the Servicorps, he sees all of them dying and he gets crazy, so he goes to fight and ends up being killed. Talking about 3D maneuvering gear, in both stories, the equipment used to fight both Vedas and Titans is described as a 3D maneuvering gear. After the shock of the first encounter against the Vedas, Takeru is saved, and while he's in the battlefield without any risk at all, he's talking with Marimo, his instructor. She's trying to cheer him up and help him to get over his frustration for being unable to defeat the Vedas. Takeru is in pain, but somehow his instructor is slowly healing his wound. But it's during this fight that we get the plot twist of a hiding Veda coming from behind of her. And suddenly Marimo gets beheaded, and this left Takeru in shock and made him faint. Eren, after his first fight against the Titans, transforms into the Attack Titan. This is the first transformation of Eren. When Eren stops fighting as Attack Titan, he also faints. If we flash back into the beginning of the manga, Eren has a similar loss to the one of Takeru, but he actually loses his mother in a scene that is a bit similar to the panel of the alien eating the instructor of Takeru. After Takeru regains his consciousness, he's being interrogated by the military because he might become a threat for the rest of the soldiers, because they suspect that he could have acquired PTSD after his first encounter with Vedas. In the case of Eren, after regaining his consciousness, he's also interrogated by the military because he's seen as a possible enemy of Paradise since he has this ability to turn into a Titan, and he's almost killed during this public interrogation, where luckily his friend Armin is able to touch the heart of Pixies and stop this conflict. Takeru gets more frustrated throughout the story as he reaches a final point where he can't handle things anymore. He gets more impulsive and aggressive gradually. He feels angry about how he's forced by Yuko to do things, and he's also very frustrated because every time he seems to be making progress, everything seems to fail anyways. During these moments, Maya, one of his comrades and also his friend, tries to make him react about his mistake to escape, but Takeru treats her like garbage and tells her to just go away and fuck off. In Attack on Titan, Eren also gets frustrated throughout the story. We see how many of his plans succeeded, but also he felt like a monster that didn't want to assume his place in this world. When Eren finally leaves Paradise and disappears for a while, we see that he became a more aggressive person. He ends up punching Armin and treating Mikasa like crap when she says that she knows him and he's still a good person, but Eren just says that he always hates her and that she's a slave, just like Takeru did with Maya. Both Eren and Takeru became colder during these events. The main difference is that Eren was stronger mentally than Takeru. He was able to keep moving forward and pursue his goal. Meanwhile, Takeru couldn't stand it anymore and had to flee from this dimension. We see that when finally Takeru is able to escape back to his original dimension, he goes instantly to find Marimo and he finds out that she's still alive in the original dimension. So he instantly goes to say sorry to her while he cries, and Marimo doesn't understand anything, but she still tries to comfort Takeru and understand him in his pain. Eren does something similar because when he's in Marley, we also see him crying and saying sorry to Ramsey because he was about to murder him and almost everyone during the rumbling in the future. Takeru couldn't stay for long in this different timeline because the events from the alternative timeline start affecting this original dimension, so Marimo dies once again and his childhood friend Sumika is also in danger. With all the pressure that Takeru felt, he starts slowly collapsing. He runs through many risks and did too many damage to his friends and comrades. So he goes to talk to Yuko and he says that he wants to die, he doesn't deserve to live, and he begs Yuko to just let him get killed. Eren also has similar situations and mental collapses, where we see him saying that he's a monster, that he never needed to happen, and he even asked Historia to kill him. Both of them share this feel of unavoidable guilt that made them want to die or kill themselves to finish their pain. Before Takeru flees from his original dimension back into the alternative dimension, he tells the truth to his childhood friend Sumika, and she supports him the most that she could. Also, we get to see a very sad scene where she knows that when Takeru leaves the dimension, she will totally forget about his existence, and she tried her best to don't forget about him. We see this heartbreaking scene where we see how she constantly writes his name in her diary because she wants to remember him no matter what, but sadly she forgets him because of the properties of the travel between dimensions. In the case of Mikasa, she's also faced throughout the decision of forgetting or remembering Eren at the end game of the manga. Mikasa is able to sort things out and makes her choice, that is to save the world, kill Eren at the same time, and keep remembering him. In the early panels of Attack on Titan, we also see that the figure of Eren was very important to her to keep moving forward as a young girl. So during one of her combats against Titans, when she's about to give up, we see that she remembers Eren and the scarf that he gave to her, and this allows her to regain the strength to fight while saying that she will live, because if she doesn't live, she won't be able to remember Eren. When Takeru escapes from the alternative dimension, he finds out that the 00 unit, that is the strongest human weapon to fight the battles, which is also an ESP, suddenly appeared in the timeline, and shockingly, the person who was used for this experiment was actually Sumika, his childhood friend that disappeared in this timeline and one of the biggest plot twists of the video game. So, considering that the 00 unit is Sumika, Sumika became the stronger ESP and the strongest human weapon of Muv Luv Alternative. She looks even more similar to Mikasa due to this, because Mikasa is also the strongest human soldier after Levi got nerfed, and there's many other parallels between both girls. As an example, they're both childhood friends of the main character. They both received a gift from their friends. Sumika received a bunny keychain that I don't know why I couldn't find the image on Google, and Mikasa the scarf. Both Takeru, Sumika, and Eren Mikasa end up falling in love. In the case of Takeru, in the original timeline he dies and Sumika gets raped by the badass. In the case of Eren, he gets beheaded by Mikasa, but they know the feelings between them thanks to the message that Eren sent to her in Pat, that very sad dream where he explains everything that will happen if he didn't choose to sacrifice himself. The name of Sumika and Mikasa are pretty similar, and they both worry and care a lot about the main character. So we see that these similarities are incredible, and Isayama must have really loved the video game to pay so many tributes inside his own manga. So back to this comparison and breakdown. After all the events that I mentioned before of Muv Luv, the training arc, the civil war, the first combat against the badass, the operations and more, we finally get into the endgame of this video game, where we see that mankind is preparing the Operation Cherry Blossom, the biggest mission ever made by the whole world, and its main objective is to destroy the giant hive of Kashgar, the place where the badass originally landed on Earth. In Attack on Titan, there's also a huge worldwide scale operation to try to stop Eren and the Rumbling from destroying the world, and it also requires the participation of a global alliance with not very high chances of winning against the colossal Titans, you know. We can see that the final on both stories is a global battle between the world against the Titans and Badass, where once again humanity is at brink of extinction. In Muv Luv before this event, there's an interaction between Takeru and Sumika, where Takeru is worried about her and she ends up confessing to him by using her ESP power about the events that she lived after Takeru dies in the original dimension. The power that she used to reach his memories is similar to the power of the Founder Titan, where the person in control of this ability is able to literally insert memories or control the mind of any alien inside the world. In this flashback, Sumika shows him that she was trapped by the aliens and she was victim of one of the most creepiest things ever done to a human. She was raped and raped and raped again, and the aliens took off their muscles and bones and just left the nerves to stimulate her sexually inside a tube. While this was happening, mankind used G-bombs to attack the place, and the G-bombs are a new human technology able to make a fifth dimensional effect explosion, and this generated a strange anomaly in space-time that ended up giving Sumika, actually the brain of Sumika, the power to affect the flow of space-time with her thoughts and generate different timelines. Man, I really feel like, I don't know, I feel like Stephen Hawking talking about this, or Albert Einstein, you know. But actually I'm so dumb that I feel bad to compare myself to them, so I didn't say anything. The will of Sumika to save Takeru was so strong that she ended up creating an infinite loop where Takeru tried so many times to save the world and failed, but Sumika with her power unintentionally was reviving her boyfriend and forcing him to become the hero that will save mankind from the badass. In the case of Eren, he has the power of the Founder Titan. He was able to handle most of the events that happened throughout Shingeki, and he was able to affect the timeline with his power also. Eren does something similar to what Sumika did to Takeru, when he showed Mikasa the events of the possible future if he chose to escape from his fate, and letting her see how Paradis and all their friends will get massacred and killed if they will just live their happy lives ignoring the rest of the world. During the beginning of the final battle of Muv Luv, the 207 squad together with other soldiers travel inside the spaceships from outer space until they reach the hive to don't be detected by the aliens. In the case of Shingeki, the Alliance also traveled inside a plane to reach the Founder Titan, and in the case of the rest of the world, their last resort was also made with a group of ships from the highest possible altitude in order to don't be reachable by the colossal titans. In this case, due to the technology inside Attack on Titan, the most sophisticated ship to do this kinds of missions were the Zeppelins, but in the end we know that our beloved monkey was able to shut them down anyways. In the final battle of Muv Luv, there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Vidas inside the hive, attacking the Special Task Force A01. By the way, this Special Task Force is formed by original members of the 207 squad and other soldiers. So this task force gets attacked, and luckily they're saved by the incredible power of the Susanna 4, a very strong giant mecha that is used with the power of the 00 unit. In Attack on Titan, the final battle between the Alliance and the thousands of colossal titans, together with the Titan Shifters of Time Past, where the group of soldiers of the Alliance almost get killed if it wasn't for the help of the flying titan of Falco. So in both stories, the soldiers get easily outnumbered and run into an almost unavoidable death flag. During the battle in Muv Luv, two members of the special force sacrificed their lives in order to slow the advance of the Vedas in the hive, to allow Takeru and Sumika to reach the core of this structure. In Attack on Titan, Pieck and Jan almost run through the same fate when they both almost get killed while trying to detonate the neck of the Founder Titan. When finally Takeru reaches the core of the hive, he finds out that there's some sort of a strange parasite in it, so he considers that he has to destroy it to exterminate the Vedas. In Attack on Titan we also get some plans of the Alliance about maybe having to destroy the strange centipede that lives inside the spine of Eren in order to destroy the power of the Titans forever. In both stories, the source of these weird creatures is this other strange creature. It's another similarity between Muv Luv and Attack on Titan. So in Muv Luv, it's a robot created by aliens. Literally the Vedas are all robots made to gather resources. Meanwhile, in Shingeki, it's a prehistoric animal that survived throughout centuries and entered in contact with Ymir Fritz when she fell in that lake under the tree 2000 years ago. This strange being that is similar to an hallucigenia or hallucigenia from our own world, you know, the real world. In Muv Luv, thanks to the power of Kazumi, she makes a link between the brain of Takeru and the mind of this superordinate that looks like a worm. So this being says that they are just retrieving materials from the earth. There's billions and billions of hive across the universe, and they are robots made by the creators. Takeru tried to negotiate and find a solution, but sadly he had to use violence to finish this. So he does a final attempt to defeat this being. Sadly he's unable to reach him, and to beat him, Maya, his friend, has to use her mecha to grab the superordinate, and while holding him she tells Takeru that he must shoot it together with her to save the world. Takeru cries while fulfilling his duty, killing the superordinate, saving the world, but sadly also killing Maya. With Eren on Attack on Titan, the situation isn't vice versa. Eren is the person who controls the hallucinogenia. He's the one creating this rumble to save his friends while trying to save Paradise. And is Mikasa the one that has to kill him and behead him in order to save the world? So Takeru kills Meiya to kill the strange being. And on Attack on Titan, Mikasa has to kill Eren to defeat the hallucinogenia. When Meiya dies, she confesses her love to Takeru while crying. Meanwhile, Eren also confessed his love to Mikasa in this vision, where we also see that Eren is crying while seeing the woman he loves for one last time. When everything ends in Muv Luv, Kasumi, a very important character that I didn't mention before. As a quick breakdown of her, she's also an ESP that was able to become a sort of empty void of memories of Sumika and Takeru throughout the story. She says to Takeru that Sumika died after the operation and that he has to go back to his original timeline. But sadly everyone will forget about what he did in the alternative dimension, and that he will also forget about everything that happened before. While Kasumi is talking to Takeru, she suddenly starts receiving feelings and stuff from someone else. She says to Takeru that she will always be watching him. She won't forget about him and that she loved him, being actually the feelings of Sumika being received by the power of Kasumi as an ESP. In Attack on Titan there's also a similar scene that is actually the moment where the owl shows us how he was receiving memories of Eren through paths and has the same reaction of Sumika when he talks about protecting Mikasa and Armin many years before they were even born. The final dialogue on this conversation is something that kept me very interested back then, and this also helped me to predict the end of the Attack on Titan manga. So Kasumi, in this line that I'm talking about, being influenced by Sumika, says to Takeru, "See you later." Meanwhile, in Attack on Titan, Mikasa also says to Eren, "See you later, Eren," when she finally fulfills her destiny and kills him. The outcome of this conflict in Muv Luv shows that since betas are villains, this is just a partial peace for mankind. They might get invaded in the future again, but at least Takeru was able to give a few years more to the world to be able to prepare for this attack. In the case of Shingeki, Eren also saved Paradise briefly and allowed his friends to live happy lives as he wanted them to have, because in the extra panels from episode 109.5, we see that in the end, human nature is too conflictive and self-destructive that Paradise ends up being destroyed anyways. So this is the end of this updated version of this comparison, guys. I hope to have improved from the previous video that was a bit hard to understand because, you know, I was literally 1 week or 2 weeks in YouTube as a content creator back then, and I felt very nervous to speak in front of a microphone, but now I feel more confident, you know. And about what series, for me Muv Luv is a very underrated masterpiece, and I'm glad the anime already aired and is being broadcasted in Crunchyroll if you want to check it out. I think 2 episodes have been released so far. And in a few months more, in January, we will get to see the final part of the anime of Attack on Titan, so it's gonna be amazing months for the fans of both Muv Luv and Attack on Titan. And as usual, guys, I'd like to thank you all for the amazing support to this channel. We are 210 people, so I feel proud of this, and I'm really grateful to all of you for this amazing help and for everyone who comes here and watch my videos often. I don't want to get so romantic, so as I always say, guys, thank you and see you soon.